Collaborations that bring benefits to everyone are so cool to be involved in. Recently, I jumped on a call with this week's guest, Therman Trotman, to see whether I could help out the people that he works with. Now, Therman teaches project managers how to implement Microsoft Sharepoint, and he has some questions about how the financial side of project management works. Now, I've got a lot of project management experience, so when he reached out for somebody to talk to, I put up my hand. Welcome to the Online Business Launchpad podcast. I'm your host, Trudy Rankin. And when Thurman and I sat down to talk, we were still talking an hour and a half later. And we ended up with enough material for this podcast, which I'm sharing with you today, and for his podcast. And we will definitely be talking again because there was a lot more we could have covered. So listen to this conversation that Thurman and I had, and I hope you get as much out of it as I did just listening to the wisdom that he had to share. Tell me a little bit more about who you help and how.
Okay, cool. You're obviously familiar with Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of Microsoft Sharepoint?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever used it?
A long time ago when it was relatively new.
Okay. So in your mind, it's probably a four-letter word. A lot of people a lot of people that used SharePoint back in the days, even today, it's probably a four-letter word. But it's come a long way. And what I do is I show project managers how to use SharePoint. That's just the bottom line of it. But I try to be more than just like a one-trick pony or whatever they say. Yeah. So if you come to me, you're obviously going to come to me for technical reasons. We're going to start there. But the more that we get to know each other, you'll find out that I'm more than technical. I have a saying that I always say is people over technology. And that's because as much as I love technology, I love people more. And I'm a big believer in that. And I don't even think it's my belief. I believe it's just a fact that technology is not the thing. It's people. You know what I'm saying? So you can have great technology with a bad team, and y'all are not going to succeed like the team who's going to have subpar technology, but they work great together as a team. If you work with me, then I will show you, yes, how to use SharePoint. But if you listen to my podcast, you'll see that what I do is I talk about the why. I can't really talk about the technology on the podcast. You can't see it. So that's what YouTube is for. But if you come and listen to the podcast, then I'll say something like, if you're a project manager and you're gathering up your team, you probably would have went into Excel and created a risk register to do X, Y, and Z. Let me tell you why you should create it in SharePoint, because it has these benefits over Excel, that type of stuff. If I had to pick a thing, really, it's just showing project managers how to use SharePoint so that they can make their life easier. That's basically it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of project managers, you can end up using a tool that is just made for managing projects. You got your Asanas, all that other stuff out there, Microsoft Project, cool. But I know a lot of people who, I don't want to use the term bootstrapping, but I can't think of anything else. If they were to create a stakeholder register, they would probably go to Excel and do it. I'm reaching out to those people. And I'm like, look, you're making your life harder, because I understand you could do it in Excel, but if you did it in SharePoint, it'd be so much better. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to introduce people to the world of SharePoint by giving them the low-hanging fruit. So once I get you in the door, either I or someone else in the Microsoft community or the web will introduce you to all these other cool things you could do with SharePoint and other Microsoft products. So yeah, how I help project managers specifically is by showing them how to use these tools, how to use the tool SharePoint specifically, but then other tools in Microsoft Suite. And the whole purpose is so that you could do your job better. I got this thing where I say work better, live better. I do truly believe that since you spend a whole bunch of hours on a regular basis, weekly, at this thing we call a job, that if it was just a little bit better, then your life would be better. You know what I'm saying? Because I will say I am fortunate to be in a situation where for a really long time, for a living, I've done something that I love. I try to help other people do that too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Talk a little bit about your business model. What business model do you use? You definitely help people with SharePoint. And I love your focus on teams. That just makes so much sense to me. And I have to say, in my experience, based on all of my experience as a chief information officer and working around technology for many, many years, it's very refreshing to see people or to see somebody saying people are more important than the technology, because when we'll get to that in a little bit, but that is a really, really important attitude. So yeah, could you just expand a little bit on your business model?
So my business model, all right. So if I gave you the whole business model, then my actual company, the whole company does SharePoint training, development, and consulting. The place that I have no problem finding clients is development and consulting. I've been doing it for years. That's what I do. It's where you hire me to do a thing and I'm going to come do it. That's building an application to make your life easier. So I've been doing that for a long time, or consulting with you, or both. The portion that I've been trying to grow online is the SharePoint help desk, which is, I would call, my training arm. So for years, Microsoft has had this tool called SharePoint, and they've had a bunch of other tools, obviously. As time went on, they packaged everything up and made Microsoft 365, the suite. When they did that, they made SharePoint available as an end user's tool. So just like before, where you would go and open up Excel and just go use it, and you would open up PowerPoint and just go use it to make your presentations, they then made SharePoint something that you could just go open up and use. But all these people didn't know that. First of all, a lot of people either hate SharePoint, that's one. Two, they don't know about SharePoint. And three, they probably do know about SharePoint, but don't know how to use it. What my company does, the SharePoint help desk, the training arm, is bridge that gap. You're right here. Here's the tool. You get a frame right here. Here's the tool. And then I'm that bridge that's showing you, hey, look, you got this cool tool available at your fingertips. Let me show you how to use it. That's really my North Star. You know what I'm saying? Is to show people how to use that tool. But again, it's just the first step, because SharePoint by itself, powerful, absolutely. But the Microsoft suite is, you got a whole bunch of things at your fingertips and they're all integrated. Let me help you there. But the low hanging fruit is always get them in the door with SharePoint, because that's my thing. I love SharePoint. And after that, we can show you everything else. So if that explains my business model, it's just basically that. My company does three things. It's consulting, development, and training. And I'm trying to grow the training arm, and the training arm focuses on SharePoint, and it focuses on bridging the gap between all of these end users who now have this pretty cool tool at their fingertips, but don't know how to use it. That's the reason I'm here. Or part of the reason.
Yeah, it's a good reason. Out of curiosity, you've been doing this for years. How did you get into it? How did you go from just tell the listeners basically, how did you get to where you are at the moment?
So I'm only laughing because I just put this thing out. I put a post out on LinkedIn, I don't know, like a week ago. That's another thing too. I post every day on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So in 1999, I went to the Army, right? I was a teenager. Before going to the Army, my father bought us a computer. It was me and my brothers. He bought us a computer. And this computer was like, it was an NEC, big old desktop, big old monitor. It was a whole thing, right? And that was like my first, like, dibbling and dabbling with computers. But I ended up going to the Army. And in the Army, I did what's called a 31 uniforms job. And that was commo. So touching radios, communication, all that stuff. But because I went to aviation units, they had more of a need for what was called a 74 Bravo. A 74 Bravo is somebody who does computers. So I got to hone my skills touching these computers. But before SharePoint, it was just get inside of a computer, replace a hard drive, replace some RAM. I remember one time my sergeant said to me one time when I was looking at an open computer, he said, yo, this thing is just like Legos. And that never left my head, because once he said that, he made it so easy for me to just recognize what a computer looks like on the inside. So after he dumbed it down and made it so simple and said, yeah, they're Legos, I was like, oh, okay. And that made going inside of a computer very easy for me. I just looked at it like Legos. So I did that for years. I came out of the Army. I then went to the National Guard. And then after the National Guard, I went to work for the government, like you did too. I was a contractor for a company who supported the government. And I did that for years. I did that from 2004 to 2021. I built a lot of contacts. I did a lot of stuff. But during that time, I was just known as an IT guy. In 2009 is when I started using SharePoint. And because before that, I was the IT guy, right? So I'm just like doing IT stuff. And I used to do conference room schedulers. Trudy, if you needed to schedule a conference room, you would call me and then I would take your call. You'd say, hey, I want to use it on Tuesday at this time. And I'd be like, okay, cool. And then I'd put it in a calendar somewhere. And then I'd shoot you an email and tell you to be here at this time. And then I will be at the room to hook you up. And then some contractor comes in and they're like, hey, we can automate that whole thing for you. And I was like, all right, what do you mean? Show me what you're talking about. And he shows me SharePoint and he got me to the point where people went to a site, scheduled themselves on the calendar if it was open. I got an automatic email. They got an automatic email. And I had the details in the email of the things that I needed to know when I went to the meeting. Blew my mind because I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'm like, okay, cool. You can do that. That's what's up. Then he starts going on about all these cool things you can do with SharePoint. I tell my boss, who, thank goodness, my boss was like a forward thinker. You know what I mean? Because she could have easily shut things down and been like, no, we're not doing that. Like I said, people over technology. She could have easily been like, no, that's too much. We don't embrace change over here. You know what I'm saying? You need to get out of here, Thurman. But she wasn't like that. She sent me for 1 week of training for SharePoint. And when I left that training, I came back to the organization. We're about to change things. This is about to be the greatest thing ever. But I was wrong because at the time of my career, I thought technology over people. I didn't know at that time. I hadn't learned yet what I know now. At that time, I was like, if I come back and I build this cool thing, then the whole organization is going to use it and it's going to be great. Totally wrong. Way wrong. I had to find out from a guy who, he wasn't a mentor or anything, but I met him in a meeting and he called we were all sitting around the table and he called out the guy that was leading and he said, we were like on this big project. He said, it doesn't matter what project you bring here. The culture here is messed up. You're not going to get what you're trying to get implemented. And I'm like, I'm still young and I'm in my 20s, I think. So I'm like, I thought that he was just being a jerk. Just I don't know, close to retirement and just didn't care. I thought he was just talking trash. But as he kept going on, I was curious and I was like, wait, what does he mean? So when we took a break, I went up to him and I asked him, I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean by culture? I didn't know none of this stuff. From that time on, once he told me what culture was, he explained why he said that this thing was going to fail, and then opened my eyes to how it didn't matter how we were all in this room and scheming on this big project and we were going to publish this and it's going to be the greatest thing ever. Everything he said to me was practical and it made sense and it never left my head. So from there, that's where I made the shift to where I am now. That was like the beginning of understanding people, understanding that you don't build it and it will come, understanding that relationships are important, which I was building relationships, but I didn't realize the leverage I had by just being cool with people. I thought you had to be in charge to get people to do things, but you don't. You just have to do good things for people and they'll feel compelled to do good things for you too. Yeah, that's how I got here today. I got here today through all those steps. And I think the last big step that I took was in 2021 when I left my W-2 position and I took my company full time to support a different government organization, but this time as an independent person, as an independent contractor. And yeah, it was great. I am really living, somebody just asked me the other day, and I was like, listen, I baked a cake that was really good a long time ago, but I put the icing on it a long time ago, and I've been just enjoying the icing on the cake. You know what I'm saying? Like everything after a certain point, because I come from humble beginnings. So once I hit a certain level of not being in those old situations anymore, it didn't matter what happened after that. All of it was icing on the cake. This is icing on the cake for me right now. I'm in my house in America, talking to somebody overseas, learning and building a relationship and having a good time. This is like all icing on the cake for me. You know what I'm saying? That's how I got to where I am today. Hopefully that wasn't too long.
That is really interesting. I always find people's journeys interesting, especially as they go from building skills as an employee and then taking those skills and then turning them into a business. And Quick question before we then jump into your share of this conversation, which is, while you were still working for somebody else, did you start working on your own business part-time, or did you just...
I did.
You did? Oh yeah?
I
What
did.
kind of a runway did you have?
2019, early 2019, all of 2020, and then all the way till November 2021, it was all on the side. November 2021 is when I finally said, I'm getting out of here. And you know what? I would have kept doing it part-time. What kind of drove me to leave was things were changing. And I'm a very, very big, I'm blessed, right? I feel like I'm blessed because I don't ever remember getting up and going to work and not enjoying what I was doing. I've been in IT since forever. And all the jobs that I've done in the Army, outside of the Army, I've always enjoyed it, just getting up and going. My last bit of time at the organization, things were starting to impede on my joy. And I take my happiness seriously. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, if things that are out of my control, it's not me, things that are out of my control are impeding on my happiness, then I have to go over here. I don't know how to, nor do I feel compelled to convince people and things that are out of my control that they need to work to make sure that I'm happy. I need to work to make sure that I'm happy. And it's my choice to be like, all right, I'm going to get out of here. So I'm blessed in that for 2 years, I was doing it part-time, where it was a super easy transition when I was just like, you know what? This company who I've been supporting part-time, they know me. This organization, they know me. They have been begging for me to come support them full-time. I showed them what I could do. I'm getting out of here. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, it wasn't too long that I stayed in that old situation where they was about to start stepping all over the thing that I love. You know what I mean? And I was like, nah, I can't do that. I don't like that life. So I don't know what it's like to wake up and go to a job that you hate.
You're fortunate, because a lot of people do actually go to jobs they hate, and you can go for years and love what you're doing. And then it can be exactly like what you said. Something changes, new people come in maybe, or the world changes, and all of a sudden it's just not a happy place anymore. So it's really lovely to hear how you then take that and take what you love doing and then turn it into a full-time business. Now, one of the reasons that we're on the call is because we're both members of Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income Pro, or SPI Pro group, and we got in touch with each other that way. And you were basically asking if anybody knew about project management and project management financials. And I went, I do. I have quite a background in it. And I thought maybe I could help.
Before we jump to the screen, let me ask you real quick. There was a time when you never managed people, and there was a time when you did manage people.
Yep.
Majority of the people that I know who manage people get to a point where they say they never want to do it again. How do you feel about managing people?
I think that your mantra of people over technology is pretty much the most important part. And that's people over, what can I say? It can't
everything.
It's not people over everything, but it's got to be people over my ego, if that makes any sense. So when you're thinking about career climbing up the career ladder and things like that, to me, my way of working with and managing people is that I've got your assistance for a certain period of time. You have skill sets that are valuable to the organization and to me, because when you do things that look good or that are great for the organization, it makes me look good. I want to make you look good, but I also want to make sure that you've got a career path, so that if you're doing this kind of thing right now, one of the things that I do fairly well is that I can see people operating and I can go, hey, you've got some skills that you don't realize you have. Would you be interested in trying something new that's going to stretch you, make you try something, and it's going to just put you a little bit out of your comfort zone? And if people say, no, that's fine, that's cool. But if they say yes, then you give them as much support as you can, and you help them start to grow those muscles, those new sets of skills. And so to answer your question, I love managing people because at heart, I'm a shiny object person and an entrepreneur. And I love giving people opportunities to grow and to try new things. And when you do that, you'd be stunned at how much value that can bring to the organization. It's so powerful.
You're the first person who has experience managing people who said they embrace it. That's refreshing to hear, because I tell you what, for two reasons, what I've heard other people say and because how I feel, I don't want to get into the zone. I know I can grow my company fast in the government space if I hire employees, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that just yet. That's refreshing to hear.
Yeah, the thing is, this is something that I tell other people who are in the same space as you. Is just think about all the bosses that you had all through your career.
Mm-hmm.
Which were the good ones? Which were the bad ones?
Mm-hmm.
And what made the good ones good and what made the bad ones bad? Most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, the bad ones were either didn't really have the information they needed to make good decisions, or they couldn't make good decisions, or they loved playing politics with a large P, and they do it by stamping on everybody else as they scramble up the ladder. And you don't have to be that kind of a boss. You can be the sort of boss who takes your focus, which is relationships, and focus that sense of relationship building in a very professional way on, hey, we've got this mutual agreement. You help me, I'll help you. Let's talk about your vision and goals for your life, not just for when you're working as an employee. And
Mm-hmm.
if you do that, you basically take away a lot of it's not the angst, but it takes away some of the pain and the stress.
All right, Trudy, let me ask you something. Okay, I assume, I'm going to guess that majority of people that you have worked for and with, and those that have worked for and with you, they probably have positive things to say about you, the majority of those folks. But do you find that there's a sprinkle of people who might, if given the opportunity, speak about you in a negative way? Now, wait, let me finish. They speak about you in a negative way, but anybody who knows that that's probably that person. But they have some type of perspective, or they have some weird whatever that happened that makes them speak ill of you, right? Now, you asked about my bosses, and I have bosses who multiple people will say negative things about these bosses. But me and that boss had a great relationship. So I can't even say they were a bad boss to me, but I can say that a lot of people considered them not a good boss. You know what I'm saying? But I know that if I needed to go to them and ask them real questions and get real answers, I could do that. If I needed support, I got it. If someone asked me about them, I didn't have negative things to say about them. I'd be like, yeah, I've seen them do that. That's not my relationship with them. So I don't know that those bosses were, I can't tell you. I don't know for sure if those bosses were, because I would say all my bosses were great. I don't know that they were all great, or it was just that relationship I had with them. I don't know, except a couple. Now, a couple stood out where they were just great no matter what. Some that I still keep in contact with. But the ones that weren't, from other people, the ones that weren't getting the best report card, they were still good with me. So I don't even know that. I can't think of a bad boss who just objectively was just bad. I don't know. I got to think about that. It's a
Yeah.
good question.
And that is a relative term, of course.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But as a boss, you get the joy of building relationships. You also have the responsibility to hold people to account. And sometimes when you hold people to account, they don't like it, or they feel threatened, or they know somewhere deep inside themselves that they just don't have what it takes, but they're in that job. They need that job for financial security, or because they've been coasting, or whatever reason. And you still have to work with those people. Now, I'm not quite sure what it's like in the US. It's been too long since I've been over that side, but here in Australia and New Zealand, you have to go through what's called a performance management process. If somebody's not performing, you have to follow step by step a very carefully laid out process for making sure it's clear that they know what they're supposed to be doing, making sure they have the skills to do it. If they don't, giving them a chance to build those skills and turn their performance around. And it can take quite a long time for somebody who's not performing and really does need to go do something else. It can take a long time to work through that process. And some people get pretty bitter and twisted about it. So you do have to understand that as a boss, it's not all sweetness and light.
Right.
But at the same time, you can still be humane and do that stuff if you have to. And yeah, that's one aspect of it. And then there's the other types of scenarios where the organization's doing restructuring or your area has to be restructured. And then that's a completely different type of a conversation. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got more on that, but I want to get to this right here because my wife is also pretty high up in her position, manages people. One of the people who said that she hates managing people, but you wouldn't know it. She does a really good job, but she's also an introvert. Talking to people all day drains her. It's a whole thing. But yeah, she's one of the people who makes me think I don't necessarily want to go there just yet. But you're giving me hope.
Yep. It's the sort of thing where you can start small. You start by bringing in a virtual assistant to help with your business.
That's a good point. That's a good point because I have one. And she, before me, started considering herself an employee. And one day a light bulb did go off. And I thought to myself, man, if I slowly over time built up my team, I'm in charge. I can build the team in my vision. All those things that I'm always like looking, thinking, why don't you have a real relationship with this person? Or why don't you nip things in the bud from the beginning? Or why don't you show people how you want to be treated and give the employees the same, all of that stuff? I can do it. I can build my company in my image. I didn't have that realization until a couple weeks ago, but I'm still like, I'm with you. Start small.
Yes,
And it's
start
working so
small.
well.
And be deliberate about it. You sit down and figure out what kind of boss you want to be, what being a boss will mean for your business, and what kind of people you want working for you. That's another thing. I'm just thinking, it's called the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, Gino Wickman.
Somebody just told me about that.
Traction. He's written a book called Traction.
Who just told me about that?
Yeah. I use it in my business. And if you read that book and chat to a few people who use it in their business, I think you'll find it's a really good, practical, hands-on, really appropriate for small businesses, but it's a really good thing to aspire to, even if you're just a really tiny business and you're wanting to grow your team. Start with that. Start with Traction and implement it. Implement the entrepreneurial operating system in your business. It will make your growth path a lot easier.
Okay. All right. Will do. You're the second person who told me about that. Do you think that entrepreneurs, so you mentioned that we're both in SPI and if you've been a fan of Pat's for a while, you saw how he did things from a distance. We weren't like with Pat in a room. At one point, his rhythm was blog, podcast at a certain time. And then he would put out his monthly report. And then he would talk about certain things that he had coming up. So if you're an entrepreneur, do you think you're a more effective entrepreneur if you know how to do project management?
The answer is absolutely yes. Because as an entrepreneur, I don't know about you, but I know about me, bright, shiny object syndrome, percent. And so the only thing that allows me to not let that take over my life, keep a little bit because it's nice, it's spicy, it's fun to try new things. But in order to be successful, you have to be super disciplined about making things happen. And in order to make things happen, you need a plan. Even at a mini project management approach to doing things in your business, the sooner you can get to having something that lets you do things in a consistent and disciplined way, the sooner you're going to start seeing success and growth in your business. And I've seen that myself because when I went from corporate to small business owner and started my own business, my word, oh my goodness, I had to learn so much so fast. And the disciplines that I had from project management stood me in really, really, really good stead when I used them. When I did not use them, it was a disaster.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have to learn more and employ more because I find myself, first of all, I'm not a project manager. I'm studying the field to help project managers technically, give them some technical help. Matter of fact, I built a risk register in SharePoint specifically for project managers that find themselves building their risk register in Excel. So if you do it in Excel, I'm like, no, come do it in SharePoint. It's better. But I'm studying it. I'm trying to learn it. And I'm just thinking, is project management this thing where, like how you see things a certain way and then you do a thing and now you can't unsee, like you have the lens of this thing. So I feel like do PMPs have the lens of project managers? We're like, hey, we're getting ready to go on vacation next year. And so their brain flips into project management mode, where in a corporate environment, they might say, hey, we need a risk register. But at home, they're not going to say we need a risk register, but they're thinking about things that could go wrong. Where if I'm planning a trip, it's a total difference between me and my wife. First of all, I'm not planning anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, a friend is like saying, hey, we're going to go to this thing next week or in a couple months. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm down. I want to go. And there's no planning involved. A few weeks beforehand, or maybe a couple of days, I'm going to throw some stuff in a bag and say, yes, let's go have a good time. I don't know where we're going, what we're doing, or what the itinerary is. I'm just going to hang out. But I'm wondering if project managers try to employ this stuff in their life, because if I was a project manager, I wonder if I could run my family more efficiently. I got 3 kids. They have a bunch of things going on. I got my own business. I have clients to support. I have things that I do with my friends. Me and my wife hang out. I got a whole thing. So I'm wondering, ever since you became a project manager, do you see things through a lens that you can't unsee?
And the answer is probably it depends.
Oh, okay.
Because, and I'm smiling to myself because when it comes, I'm just going to use your example. When it comes to planning holidays or vacations, I love the no planning, throw it in the bag. I know where we're going. Let it all happen. My husband
Yes.
is the exact opposite. He hates that. He wants to plan everything down so that we know what we're doing when, and it's been a lifetime of being married to get a compromise where we do both. We do both.
Okay.
And so it comes down to personality when it comes to vacations and holidays and things like that. But when it comes to making things happen in your family, or like my husband and I, we've done a lot of like renovations and things like that, and built camper vans and things like that, taking van shells and turning them into camper vans. You got to have a plan.
Okay.
You got to have a plan if you want to successfully make it happen. So there is 2 different things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Vacation is for hanging out. Where these other things is like, hey, we got to get this. We have a plan. This from point A to point B. We got to make it happen. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal.
So, yeah.
Before we go, I want to ask you one more thing. I have a friend who is not necessarily excited about the industry that they're in, but one of his talents, been doing it since he was younger. He's really good at negotiating, and he's really good at budgeting, and he's really good at finding a deal. And I'm like, bro, you could probably do that for an organization. And I told him, if I was managing millions right now, I'll play this one day, but I was like, if I was managing millions and I'm getting ready to sign a new contract, I would hire you. I would say, I'm not going into the room to go discuss money. I'm good with the work that I do. But if I need to discuss money and new contract and all this other stuff, I would send him, because he can negotiate. He can, if they tell him that this supplier can get it for 50K and he's okay, fine. He doesn't accept that. I would accept that and say, oh, 50K. All right, cool. He would be like, either try to budget them down or go to the ends of the earth to find it for cheaper, but still have it be able to do the job. So I'm wondering, after everything I just heard, if he has these skills, is project management a possible field for him, or would it be something more streamlined where project management, you might need a few extra skills, but maybe something specific to budget? Is there some field that he could do in budget?
Yes, yeah, there is. So the answer to could he be project manager? Yes, he could. But inside the discipline or the profession of project management, there's areas of specialty. And you can have somebody who focuses on the finance side, the budgeting side, the planning side. But it sounds to me like your friend might benefit more from looking at the procurement units within larger organizations. So there's often procurement teams. And so those procurement teams are meant to help manage the process for the departments that are out there buying stuff, big chunky stuff. Like when I was in local government, there was rules around how much money you could spend before you actually had to go through a procurement process. And the procurement people had oversight over that. And so he could either be part of a procurement team and be a specialist in that team, or he could be a consultant to the procurement team. So have his own business and basically go in there and help with that. And it helps a lot if they have got some specific experience in and knowledge of a particular industry. That can help a lot. But you could learn, you could work your way up, go and join a procurement team and build up that skill set and then go start your own consultancy business. Yeah.
Oh man, Trudy, this was super helpful. I gotta say thank you. You know what I mean? And also I want to say that hopefully maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you don't, I don't know. But this shouldn't be the last time that we connect because I feel like you're a wealth of information. And I'm big into highlighting people like yourself, right? It's really easy to get online and see these big names and think, man, they're cool and they have all the answers, which I'm not going to take nothing away from them.
They don't.
Fine. Right. You know what I mean? Whatever. I won't speak ill against them. But in my career, I have come across some great colleagues, and I'm sure you have too. And from the way it sounds to me, like you're one of these people that also just shined. You know what I'm saying? Like people who are a wealth of information, affected a lot of people positively, and have so much good things to say. I feel like we don't know about these people. Like it would be great if more of them got highlighted. So now I feel like you're like a little superstar, you know what I'm saying? You're across the globe and you've had a long career with a lot of positives and you could talk about it. And I feel like somebody coming into the industry could really benefit from that. And somebody who's in the industry and maybe they're wondering like, oh man, is this going to work out? Am I doing the right thing? They could also benefit from it too. So I got to say thank you a million times. And I hope somebody found this. I know people found this valuable.
I hope they do find it valuable. And I wanted to thank you for agreeing to turn part of our conversation into a podcast episode from my podcast, because the lessons that you bring to the table from the experiences that you've had of going from employee to starting your own business and then getting ready to start to scale your business. So many people listening to that are going to go, wow, I'm so glad that he said that, because if he can do it, maybe I can do it too. And just basically remembering that the experiences that they've built up while they're working for somebody else, you can bring those back to the table for your own business. You might not want to, but it is possible. And sometimes you do things at the beginning of your business until you get to the place where you want to be with your business, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, let me point that out real quick. I have definitely ignored what I'm good at for so many years because I saw people online doing this thing. And I'm like, oh man, that looks so great. I could do that too. Not realizing right there at my fingertips, I have a valuable skill. You know what I'm saying? I have a valuable skill that people have paid me for, people will pay me for, just take it to market. Even though a bunch of people said to me, Therman, you can go do this on your own. Why are you even here in this organization? And I'd be like, I never believed in myself. I didn't believe that I could do it. I was like, nobody's going to pay me. There's all these guys that develop and I'm not the best developer. And I was like, nah, I couldn't do it. But my situation forced my hand because what's important to me is getting up and doing something that I love. And I don't want that being tainted. And it was about to start getting where I didn't want it to be. So I got out of there. Yeah. So if I could do it, I'm not even going to say maybe. You said maybe. If I could do it, you absolutely could do it because I'm a regular guy. There's nothing going on here. I just was like, let me try this thing. And I'm very happy that I did.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. We'll take the maybe out of the sentence. It is absolutely possible. It does come down to being willing to be resilient and keep trying and keep trying and trying, because it's not always easy. I never want to sugarcoat it. It's not always easy. And you just have to be willing to pick yourself up and dust your knees off and keep trying.
And you gave a recommendation earlier for a book. I'm going to give one too. Have you read 10X is Easier Than 2X?
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah, I just heard about this book and I've been reading it. I'm almost done. And I think Pat just talked about it the other day too on his podcast after I was already reading it. I'm like, oh, okay, good. This thing is spreading. 10X is easier than 2X. I don't want to take up more time. I would just encourage people to go read the intro. The whole intro is available on Amazon. And then after that, make your decision. I have a whole thing. Maybe I can come back on the show and we can talk about it. But I have a whole thing about this book.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll put that book in the show notes because that sounds interesting. I might pick that up myself, and so that people can know which book it actually is. And yeah, it's been fantastic speaking with you, Therman. It's been great hearing your story. And yeah, let's do this. Definitely do this again.
Good deal. All right, Trudy. Yeah, I'll see you I don't see you much on LinkedIn, but I guess I'll see you inside of SPI.